streaming. I'm going to go in gallery view and I'm going to start recording. And we are now streaming. Terrific. And we are now recording. So I'm going to go to speaker view and David, let her roll.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 2 o'clock hour of Welcome to Boog City 14 Arts Festival. We've been doing for the last 18 years a series where we host non-New York small presses and their authors. And about 12 years ago, we hosted them when they were running Dose Press out of Maxwell, Texas. And now today we're hosting them as Further Other Bookworks out of Colorado Springs, Colorado. Julia Drescher, and I'm turning it over to her her partner, her co-editor, Mr. CJ Martin. CJ.
Thank you, David. And thanks, Suzanne. Thanks, everyone, for organizing this. Thanks for the invitation. Julia, wanted to thank Todd in particular for that Archers of Loaf track here a little minute ago. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna go, I'm gonna go real short here and introduce our readers and let them have as much time as they can. You can check us out at furtherotherbookworks.com or on Instagram, and I invite you to do that. So today we're going to have 7 readers, Jose Felipe Alvergue, Robert Gluck, Janet Hamill, Paul Klinger, Maureen Owen, Carter Smith, and Tyrone Williams. And I just want to thank all of these folks for signing on today and for being so generous as to let us feature their work in a variety of different ways. Thanks, everyone. I'll turn it over to Jose now.
Thanks, CJ. You can smell decay in deeply wooded areas. The smell transforms your thoughts. People migrate to witness this and to be transformed. There is no equilibrium possible to restore in witnessing it. You realize it is singular and cyclical. There is evidence in our fact of smell. This might describe the transformation called starvation, called senescence. Something else occurs underneath the nothingness that passes for its own memory, its own word, its own cellularness. The subject, writes Sarah Ahmed, who seeks to pass may assume the knowability of strangers. Though Ahmed means passing in the sense of passing for the standing, the enforced looker onto the starving, the looker is also passing for the righteous member of an equally made-up assembly, bearing witness to a difficult circumstance, community. A community is the term for the response to instant decay with instant creative power. Meanwhile, something happens underneath the self-anointed gaze. The opposite of cowardice is not bravery. It is a disposition not in the position of the kind of inertia expressed in the facing. We are witnessing treason, the radical nothingness of passing for an assembly that takes form in treason. The song of us is confused for the struggle it takes to articulate the weight, and weight confuses that previous power of equilibrium. It is masked by the force reversed and inverted into a position where to look into life requires standing above it. A power over the shape of life's idea is a watching it starve. The watching is a radical stasis. It becomes an inner articulation that is confused for being right. The reality of us is a deep cowardice to the true music of witness. The cowardice of us turns the process of a color, a ubiquitous glow, into the process of an anti-process. The surfaces are deformed, a weight shifts, and the glassiness of touch is a fitting screen to watch someone struggle for breath. In the song of us, the music, there is a glorification of the essential attraction, a magnetism toward the line where holding the idea, the object, and the subject and the tension is a very tissue. Invisibly, there is an equilibrium of tensions. Senescence is the process of a cell dying, is, so to speak, a cell by growing. Then when it no longer grows, it has in some form permitted the process of dying, which is also the growth of decay. There is an emergency. We have been witnessing decay. We are witnessing treason. There is an emergency. We are witnessing treason. Next up is Robert Gluck.
Can you see me? Okay. I'm not on my screen. Hello, friends. Chris and Julia made this lovely book for my dear friend Kathleen Fraser and me in commemoration of the visit. Some time ago, Kathleen and I found this funky tourist scrapbook from the 50s, and we each felt compelled to write a prose poem based on it. A book like this is a gift, even more precious to me because Kathleen has died. She died last year. So the first image, I'm going to show you this and then the two poems, one from Kathleen and one from me. This is mine. Odd to close my eyes during the day and open them at night, but any separation gives a form to longing. You promise what you will never give, I say to trick the distance. If I accept fate, it's a strategy of last resorts. That's why I like John Dee, the poem as industrial ruin, melted window glass, the ornate splendor of stopped time, the end of the world in history, the era of lyricism. A helicopter's ability to hover ramifies in my chest a pleading tremolo. Mirrors make me dizzy because I fall into the aging. I'm frightened. I've grown worse in your absence than the present can cure. Thought demands less of itself. Light passes in distractions, Venetian blind, glass on the sill. One term doesn't lead to the next. It brings its contrary and unions of faint commitment that scatter again like dice. And here's Kathleen's. Yomemon, the elaborately carved gate of the noted Tokugawa shogunate mausoleum at Nikko, representing, quote, one of the finest Japanese carvings and lacquer decorations. What can be represented by this finest carving, which is too exhaustive to retain? Our guide has proposed a second look at garish green and pink petals as if to raise his glass in a toast to our arrival and departure. One struggles to find words, yet feels the soft diminishing of oxygen. The monumental divests memory of its pockets on foreign soil, where time is a cloud made solid with carving. I am blinded by my bad faith or lack of appropriate counsel. Yet this elaboration of gold fell short of sight as we entered the gate. Thoughts of death, while normally disturbing, seem notable instead, as if excess of enameled color banded by red could justify any harsh loss. Ashes scattered on water or under trees was my family's solution, although now I cannot find my father or sister and have no specific location for my grief. If their ashes and bits of bone were here in little painted boxes, would my thoughts arrive in calmer progression? Thanks, everyone. Up next is Janet Hamill.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can see me. I want to thank CJ for inviting me on board and thank David of Boog City for hosting this event. And also want to thank CJ for pairing Maureen and I in a beautiful little broadside that he put together on a hand letterpress a few years ago when I was out visiting Maureen and we went down to Colorado Springs to read. So I'm going to read from my selected poems, which came out fortunately during the pandemic. I always dreamed that if I had the selected poems, they would come out during a worldwide pandemic. And my wish has come true. So this first poem is from my first book, 1975. It's called The Lonesome Death of H. Crane. The dawn was revealing his chest like a landlocked sailor over the ruins of the pyramid of the sun. I wished he'd rain like a heaven of alcohol into my face, tightening like the skin on a drum in a mirror over the bar, dissolving into a round of lacerating light, cut like a splinter of shot glass into my heart's muscle of thirst, spleen for a flask of tequila, eagle of mezcal. Your nights were a hell of cantinas, searching the soul of a serpent, coiling the ground of the dawn like a prostitute, spilling the earth with a urine of cigarette butts and beer, under a table, baptizing my face with a shower of crystalline, star-shattered nerves. Oh, Mexico, how you betrayed me. I hurl a glass into the side of your sun-splashed murals of democracy, decaying visions of inebriated seers, serape of Quetzalcoatl, you wrapped around me with the warmth of a cobalt dragon on days rising like predatory mist over jungles full of copulating birds, my mind racing like a thoroughbred horse's head in flames through a field of discarded bottles, the apocalyptic jockey winking an eye at the sun. And now let the ship swing further into the Gulf Stream's warm waters of Caribbean lush. The days of the roaring boy are done. I'm ready for death, like a patient in my pajamas, to dive like a dolphin into the sea, breaking light like a splinter of shot glass into the mouth of a hungry white shark, and let them comb the sea like scavengers for the bones of my landlocked wings. This next poem is called Fire Canto, from my 2017 collaboration with Richard Barron, RB, there you go, who was a wonderful photographer. And he took photographs of the flames in his fireplace in Santa Fe, extremely abstract photographs. This is called Fire Canto. The moths were so big, they had faces. I heard the universe charging at my back. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Start over. The moths were so big, they had faces. I heard the universe charging at my back. The light principle was so wounded and collapsing, it gave birth to new life. I heard the blood pulsing in the stars. I heard the grinding teeth of titanium. I heard the night chanting, rain, 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 simulating the lapping of water against my walls. I heard the sheer numbers of the night, in its dark belly, a desperate rhythm of sleep. So forgive me for walking away with the flame. And our next poet is Paul Klinger.
You know what? I'm actually not seeing Paul on the call, and I can't get a hold of him. So I'm thinking we move on unless Paul is here. Is Paul here? Yeah, okay. Next poet is actually Maureen Owen.
Will I just pop up?
You're on.
Okay. I'm going to read from a manuscript in progress about taking care of my mother for a period of time. And the title of the manuscript is Let the Heart Hold Down the Breakage, or The Caregiver's Log. And it's a series within itself, but each work has a different title. This first one is called Airplane Crash Near the Doll's Head. To feel the length of her body again, as I lifting when she bent, her bending. No compass needing on sidewalks. We don't have nowhere to go. Scarlet witches, did I have a father? No, nobody there. We just walk, handfuls of ditch lilies, clouds thin as stitches. Whose Mariposa tulip, neon hedgehog cactus, chiaroscuro cold case spits warm water. Hair barbered in a boy's cut, she wore her brother's hand-me-downs of flesh, where once these toothpick arms buried a face in a horse's mane. I am her secrets now. Fling 2 windows wide to a vast crystal dark, to the butterfly nebula, 3,800 light years away. Jets and gas bubbles peel off its stars. Stellar winds slam its nebula. Her chaos, I'm a mess, why don't I get better? Chapstick, rosary, face cream, pillow pile, ice water, toothpick, Tums, bedside science stories. Once upon a time, there was a rainforest near the bottom of the world. And the second piece is titled, There is no story that is not true, said Uchenda. That's from Things Fall Apart. Who are these people, she asks. What people? The ones that come in here at night. They stand in the doorway, talking. You must be dreaming them. No, they're real people. They sleep in here. Some of them sleep on the floor. Do you recognize any of them? No, I don't know them. One is a tall man. He stays in the doorway talking. The women are older with gray hair. I thought I heard you talking to them. No, I haven't seen them. One came in with you last night. With me? Yes, he was behind you. This piece is called All Duets Fracturing. I tuck her oxygen cord over the coat rack above the doorway, through the title page of The Kitchen God's Wife, on top of the bookshelf, so she won't trip on it, getting out of bed during the night. And this last piece is titled A Glass of 3 Cards, or Data. Lip balm, Tums, talking clock, stepping stool, and rosary. Grasps a curvature, confessional, its bands of slanted bars of green through shades of daybreaks. You and I on the kitchen wall, 2 heads bobbing, a sea of white cotton, auburn and gray, flounce pillows chuckling. Sandy at bedfoot snaps our photo. Now, without staging, lighting, we seem to float, your talking clock, your stepping stool to bed. Thank you. And the next reader is Carter Smith.
Hi, thanks everybody for having me. The first thing that I'd like to read comes from the book Rounds that Chris and Julia published. It's just one of the poems in it, and there are very few words per page. This is section 3. failing or having failed. Don't do it. Don't spread meaning so thin. Look for it. Is it gone? Was it taken away? Look for it. Same problem. The next thing that I'll read is a more recent work. It's a sequence. The title of it is Head and Torso of a Man, which is the title of a drawing by Lucian Freud. You wake up early in the dark. You don't know where you're going. This is the important part. Head and torso of a man, a drawing before he painted it. You wonder what kind of sign to make. You wake up early in the dark, before the storm, after class, walking, some clover in the wind. Your voice so soft when you get to that note. You look up, and why even say it? You look up, and why even say it? You wake up early in the dark, head and torso of a man. Try to make some sense of it. Your head is full of flowers, full of people walking out. Try to make some sense of it. Not just the institution. He wants to critique what it means to be a person. A student yesterday said it in class. The pleasure once of thinking it. You wake up early in the dark. Head and torso of a man, or head and shoulders of a woman, or girl sleeping, or boy in red and blue jacket, or man with folded hands. Now you're testing everything. Try to make some sense of it. You wake up early in the dark. This is how you pose a question. The small dead tree beside a larger tree that's dying. Head and torso of a man. All of them are walking out. You wake up early in the dark. You look up, and why even say it? Maybe too late to feel this way. You want them on your side. Next up is Tyrone Williams.
The Bully Archive. The everyday resurrections of the dead and living, not unlike invisible ships growing smaller and larger as they sail into the glass bottles of open seas, bind the book and beyond divided by commerce, equals toe tags carry the taglines to market function, irreducible to readings of the visible scene. And the voices thrown overboard, nay overbody, born as mistresses upon the waves they were never master, utter currency of offshore arrears. Thus exchange times the long division of geography, trade the remedy for accumulation of unique copies. Vladimir, for instance, is and isn't Mr. Alexander, the hand in the hand inside the dummy, the scandal of cadaver lingua franca, a cry swept down river dragged for a drowned voice, adrift at sea for years before washing up on the banks of New England. Here, Vladimir and Mr. Alexander find themselves writ large in uplift schemes, con games, and brutish cacophonies, a dumb collection of semi-ingenious vessels, each a noble Homo erectus, if not Mercator sapiens, much less nobleman. Here, a voice can find a mouth, can offer to trade a cast of the Venus de Milo for an alligator, a bulldog, or a rattlesnake. But V's appeal, eclipsed by M's showmanship, can only raise an eyebrow or two, American hands shoved deep into pockets far from French lapels. Hence, Mr. A goes before to prepare and condense an alphabet of omegas, to raise Montreal as Boston was to be a Paris, to screen V as V screens A, each scene blocking the scene two visages under one hood, three facades, an institute, a society, a library, to be folded into one containment policy, but for the union of the territories into Canada, one preemptive lumping engulfing another as the sans serif of laissez-faire logoria and actuarial architecture. Thanks.
Thanks, Tyrone. Thanks, everybody from Further Other Bookworks. Go check them out at furtherotherbookworks.com. And if you can't get enough of Tyrone Williams, tonight with Erica Kaufman, he'll be reading and celebrating the release of Ariel Resnikoff's Unnatural Bird Migrator from the operating system in Liminal Lab. So I guess you can go to Tyrone's Facebook page and maybe find some more information on that. And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Bill Considine. Bill.
Thank you, David. We're back to Poets Theater. And next up is playwright Dennis Moritz. Dennis writes a lot of plays. His work appears on main stage and in improvised spaces. He prefers to work in bars and art galleries. His scripts have been published in theater magazines and poetry magazines. Angel Hair United Artists, the longtime poetry press, published 2 collections of his theater works, the only plays in their catalog. Robert Craig Baum, the dramaturg and producer, has managed, directed, and produced Dennis Moritz's plays since 2011. His forthcoming book, They Fade, the Words Fade, on the Metabolic Theater of Dennis Moritz, will be published next year. He is also a screenwriter, documentarian, and musician who currently resides in Washington, D.C. with his wife and 4 boys. William J. Ritwiger is a 21-year-old up-and-coming actor, screenwriter, director, and poet residing in Glassboro, New Jersey. Currently, he is assisting the development of works with N1 Theater Lab. We're about to hear a voice from the mean streets. Let's listen to what he's saying. $2.
There's no audio. Where's the audio? Oh, I must have the wrong. I have the wrong feed. There's no audio. Where's the audio?
If you turn the audio before you share the screen.
Oh, I must have the wrong.
Where's the audio? If you turn the audio before you share the screen.
Wake up! Eggs? Coffee? Coffee? Eggs? Eggs? Philippines, 7,000 islands. One of our dollars, 253 theirs. 253 to 1. Live there, $10 a day. Rent a house. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Eggs? $350 a month. You want to know if someone there? Correspond with someone there. There, find the picture. Call them up. Call them up. Visual recognition, facial recognition. Ask them questions. Same as a meeting in the flesh, same as a meeting in the skin. Bone, bone, and bone. Music of one individual, another individual. Same as the meeting right here. One heat of biology and another heat of biology. Want my eggs? See you eyeing my eggs. I ask her questions. Honey, sweetheart, what's it like today? Just tell me what it's like. Is it a clear and sunny gray day? Is it an icky high humidity day? Is it rain? Chilly? Just tell me something. You need a coat? A sweater? Something? I'll give you my sweater. Check out the weather report. On the screen, what does she say? Does it match the weather report? Like for her on the screen? You need to check it. You need to check her out. Check her out. Philippines? That's the place. Moto scoot the island. Moto scoot off the island. Moto scoot onto a go-to, onto a floating go-to, the flat wooden boat. Moto scoot down a ramp onto the go-to boat. Float out to an island, any number, 1 to 7,000. Just float out to an island right there. See the hump of earth, the hump of rock. You're there. Any Philippine island. I'm your guy. Same thing. Exact same thing. Look through that window. Look through that phone screen. We're here. We are here. Everywhere. Everywhere. You and me and you. We're all together. We're all together now. Flow. It's all flow, she says. She's a nurse. Show you. It's on my screen. Wow. Wow. 5'1". My screen's kind of small. Can you see her? There. Well, we're all there. Everyone in the world is right there. She once dressed in white. Is it light white, right? She's dressed in blue, green, blue, turquoise blue, greeny blue, bluey, round and soft. Look at those eyes, huh? Round and soft. What? A warm and friendly love. Anybody. Those lovely, just lovely brown, deep brown eyes. They want to love anybody. $2 from you would help my blessed day. $2 from you would help my blessed day. $2.
Thank you, Dennis and company. Our next Poets Theater contribution is from Barbara Kahn. Barbara is a multi-award-winning playwright, director, actor, and coach. Theater for the New City is the New York City home for her plays, with subsequent productions in the US and Europe. She has directed in New York City and at the National Theatre in London. She's a member of the Dramatists Guild, SAG-AFTRA, Honor Roll, and the Actors Fund Performing Arts Legacy Project. She's brought us today a parable in birdsong. Let's hearken and enjoy the delicate, intricate music of the nightingale and the turtle dove.
The Nightingale and the Turtle Dove. A fable. On the second day of Christmas, and each day after, 2 turtle doves were selected from the nest to be gifts from a lover to his true love. Well, by the 12th day, 22 turtle doves were sent to his true love, leaving behind only one lonely bird. She waited in vain for their return. Nearly a year of days spent waiting, but still the turtle dove was alone. Her thoughts went to the depths of despair. Was she the last of her species? She remembered stories told by the elders about her cousins, the passenger pigeons. Once they filled the sky, but they were long gone from human history. Did that fate await her? No. She resisted and persisted. She resolved to fly over the earth and seek other survivors among the doves and the pigeons. She preened her feathers and tested the strength of her wings until she was satisfied. And on Halloween morning, she set off on her quest. In a big city on the other side of the earth, the dawn struggled to break free of the night. In a room on the highest floor of a building that seemed to reach the clouds, a nightingale in a cage sang a whistling crescendo. The turtle dove, while on her journey, heard the music and swooped down to a place on the windowsill. She watched as a human child entered the room inside, opened the door of the cage, and filled a small cup with birdseed. The nightingale ate slowly, then spread his wings that fluttered in vain against the iron bars. As soon as the human child left the room, the turtle dove sang her "Krr, krr, krr, krr." The nightingale replied with a plaintive Day after day, the turtle dove returned to the windowsill to greet her friend, the nightingale, waiting for the human child to offer the food and leave the room. Then she would sing to him of the land outside and the sky above. One day we both will fly, together we will reach the stars. Krr, krr, krr. On a day like all the others, the human child was filling the cup when a human woman's voice called out to him. He quickly left the room, neglecting to close the door to the bird cage. The turtle dove cooed to her friend, "Hurry, hurry, krr, krr, krr." But the nightingale trembled in fear. The turtle dove cooed in vain, "Krr, krr, hurry, hurry, the sky waits for you, for us." Krr, krr, krr. But it was too late. The human child returned. He noticed the open door and the nightingale still inside, and uttered something very sweet in human language. But alone again, the turtle dove flew away to far off skies. When the human child became a man, he glanced one last time at the room he had shared with his companion. Memories flooded his mind of his pet bird. He remembered that day that the nightingale refused the open door of his cage. Was it loyalty to him, or or was it fear? That night in his new home, he sat at his keyboard and typed an ode to his nightingale. Bird in a cage doesn't know how to fly, doesn't know the freedom of soaring in the sky, doesn't know the feeling of flying toward the stars, only knows the prison of the cage's iron bars. As he wrote, he felt a slight sense of guilt at imprisoning the bird for his own childish pleasure. When it was finished, his poem joined the many others written by humans in honor of their pets. And from that day forward, the nightingale was known as the bird of poetry. But what became of the turtle dove? Well, she flew and flew and flew high above the clouds until she no longer missed her friend the nightingale. And when the clouds parted, they revealed a land of canals and windmills. The turtle dove heard a familiar coming from nests far below. She called out in a mournful voice to her cousins. They cooed in reply, and excited she swooped to join the pigeons and the doves and lived among them in peace and happiness until the end of her life. If this story has a moral, well, perhaps it lies within the mists of the past. On a day long ago, when a turtle dove found the courage to take flight, but a nightingale feared the unknown.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thanks, Barbara. That is our 2 o'clock hour, everybody. We're going to be back at 3 o'clock.
Hey, David.
The live stream. And if you want to find out anybody else who's performing in the festival, go into the chat and you'll see the illustrated program. And also, if you're able to, we're asking for donations of $6 to help us fund a Zoom Pro account and to pay for our hosting for next year for boogcity.com. Thanks, and we'll see you in a few minutes.
Hey, David.
Yeah, what?
This is CJ. Hey, Paul actually did end up signing on. Is it possible for him to go on ahead and read?
Yeah, get him on.
Hey, Paul, you out there?
We can see him, or his name.
There you go.
Hey Chris, I've been out. Can you update me?
We can hear you now, Paul. Go on ahead and read. We're ready to go. So that we're kind of jumping back into the FOBW reading real quick. Paul had a little bit of a technical earlier. So this is Paul Klinger. We could hear you for a second, Paul, but now we can't.
And he's frozen as well.
I think he's having technical troubles. We heard him for a moment, but then I've tried to ping him.
Yeah, it sounds like something's gone weird.
He might be trying to get in again because he's no longer listed as a participant.
Right, he may just have stepped out to step back in, which oftentimes like reset the audio connection. So we can give him a moment.
Let's wait a moment.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
This is a wonderful set, you guys. And my apologies for that technical glitch earlier on with the audio. I apologize for that.
Ah,
There he is.
returning. The return of the Kling.
There he comes.
He seems to have no microphone icon and has
No
put
video.
stop video on.
Yeah, I asked him to start video and unmute. Ah, ha, ha, here we go. Paul, can you hear us?
Can anyone hear me?
There we go.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Hello there.
Hear you.
Hi. Sorry, I had to switch to my phone. It looks like my laptop's not working. Should I start reading?
The floor is
Go for
yours.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for hanging in with me. I apologize for all the disruption. I'm going to read from the opening section of my book that Chris put out called Rebel Paper, Paper Rebel. This title chapter is called Worshipful. Baptism tank built on their land. Interrupt the grass with bright yellow temples of mound building, cattle and culture. Ciso, Mariano, missionaries, Guadalupe rivers. The Ciso, the removed January Lupe, under whose lodge opened, who forces worship, body sonic, orthography of old Goliad, century, Espiritu de Zuniga, Aranyama, converts reading, loosed, closed, friars in the waiting rooms. Stone, 1868, an Our Mission blend of raised Victorian Spanish, 30 miles, lady of established. To leave the tradition ruined, struck, drought, many Indians now, dry the faith, a vision of Lananya Creek, 2 openings, eyes of Father in the rock, a stream that he made, inspired. Turbulent, the sound in the chapel found it twice, Loretto of the Bay. Popularly, Espiritu statue, often Runge. The first circuit, his preaching swamps and reason riders, income the hides, alligator circuit. One possum walked into the sanctuary during Robert Day's sermon, continued as a place. The Holy Weather accounts, which became miraculous addition. Later, the New World gushed forth. Do I have time to read a little bit more?
Yeah, keep going.
Sure.
Like
Going
2
to
more
switch
minutes.
to another chapter here real quick. And then I'll close with this. This chapter is called Her Ago. Angelina as interpreter, she was called a young girl. She was found. Her name was the river. River wife, Elizabeth, and in opera, the area sings steads at the edge. I make my camp. Kate Dorman, Georgia, became a nurse in 1862 at the Catfish Hotel. A number does Kate Dorman have, the heroine of Offshore Marsh. Rest in the document, Kate Dorman. Emily was, Margaret was, Brown Austin was, Brian Perry, and teaching greatly too. She pleaded at night in bravery and letters to time provided Goliad already incidents. Ike, Francisca Alvarez, she pleaded, accompanied Alvarez. The lighthouse baby, a set up, mothers, social night instruction. Miss Wood raised silkworms near Point Blank, cloth, recurring town without, now part. Sentiment of this track set aside, the name, Inma Edmondson Seeley, mask, the civil list she left. An anti. As a man, she enlisted, Emma Seeley, as a Frank Thomas, the Federal Army, a soldier, scout, and orderly. Emma Edmondson Seeley served as Frank Thompson for 2 years in the war, 1863. An anti-mask, her liberal Sterling. Midst running bell, Miriam Wallace broke clan handling or skull strapped. She had 2 pistols, her waist, cusser, loved dancing. 1926, Connie training her sister birds. Her first self-taught bird sought amateur waterfront music. Gertrude, prophet raised by the Rio at Lumber Before Vegetables, ran prairie style in this valley. Northwest Skull took guns, shoes, vital to trousers, her saddle, good coffee to swap. Sure shot. Babe, Didrikson, her, for baseball star Babe Ruth. After 2 gold versatile tennis, her athlete of golf and one full tilt boogie. Thread, rebelled, Janice, folk her coast after her ashes and counter performances, famed blues, notably Singer and Soul. She was raspy album, Marred Cosmic Pearl released, after whom an all-woman field held the mare, Mary Kyle, to travel as entertainer billed as the Molly A. Bailey Show, a small circus, Molly, the circus queen of the Southwest. A-Leaf, who A-Leaf Ozelda McGee operated post office from her phone, first postmistress, A-Leaf. Charlotte Marie Baldwin Allen, her own cattle brand, her own. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, everyone, from our 2 o'clock hour. We're going to be back here on the live stream in a few minutes for the 3 o'clock hour to pick up. So we'll see you in a moment.
Thank you, everyone.